that there are people who shy away from the businesses that their parents do. Even there are people who shy away from the businesses they themselves do. They don't want to be associated with a particular kind of business. I told them that when I was growing up, all that I knew was that, okay, so when you finish school, you go to, after senior high school, you go to a teacher training college or a nursing training college, then I'll become a nurse, I'll marry, my husband will buy a motorbike for me, and I'll be a champion in what? Then I also have children, and the cycle continues.
Welcome to the ABC show. I'm your host, Kwame Mati. Today we have with us Miss... Do I do Mrs. or Miss?
Any of them.
All right. I know she's a Mrs., but then I'll keep to her maiden name was Miss Berthy Paybaya. Did I get it right? I mean, I've always called you Sugar, so it's hard going very official today. So I know you have a master's in development planning and management. I know you do project management. I also know you run a business on the side. I mean, what I really want us to focus on in this conversation is the business you do on the side. But everything you've done so far comes to build up onto you running your own business. So let's start from how we first met. I know you were with Radio Progress in WA. How did that journey start?
So, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. Where I grew up in WA, it was common to find senior high school leavers doing teaching or other petty jobs after senior high school whilst you wait for admission to go to school. Okay. So when I completed my senior high school, I also found myself in one of the schools I was teaching. But then I had some challenges with the proprietor's son in the school. So I think he was so obsessed with me and he was more or less harassing me. I didn't have a peace of mind, so I decided to quit the teaching. And then when I quit, but I was teaching Dagari in the school. I was teaching Dagari, social studies, and some other subjects. So when I left, I decided to try the radio option. And I just put in my application, and I went to meet Mr. Ivan Domasa. Then right. We had a conversation. I told him I was really interested to do the news in Dagari. And I think since Radio Progress started, it has always been male voices on the news in Dagari. So I was the first female to do news in Dagari. Yes. So that was how I got into the Radio Progress scene and all the social media, the traditional media then.
All right. Yeah. All right. So from Radio Progress, I know usually you run projects, any project that you'd say you really are happy that you were a part of.
So then I didn't even know that some of the things we were doing were projects, we were managing projects until I studied a bit about project management. But from Radio Progress, some of the workshops that we had together where we had to go back and run projects in the communities. I remember clearly there was one on health, maternal health, where we're trying to help pregnant women take their decisions on their pregnancy, where they want to give birth, how they want to have their babies and all of that. So when we went into the community, those activities helped me to, I think they helped me to be a better project manager, if I'll put it that way. Because then you get to hear the issues from the people's perspective, you get to learn from them. And some of the things that we also learned about community entry, how to engage with the people when you enter the community, speaking with the people, how to leave the community and all of those things. I think those were skills that I picked and which have become very useful to me today as a person. I don't know if I have answered the question.
No, you have. I mean, I've worked with a number of community radio stations, and usually I realize that when the volunteers leave, go to school and come back, they all find themselves in the NGO space. And you find yourself in the project management space, managing development projects. And so I'm just trying to see whether you also fall within the category where the radio station, the development work you did with the radio actually had an impact in you deciding to do what you do now?
Yes, I think for me, largely, to a very large extent, it has influenced the things I do now. In the past 2 years, I've been working on a project where we are building the capacities of environmental health officers in different assemblies. So we've trained over 54 assemblies so far. And I think some of the skills that I picked from there, people say that working with government institutions or government work as civil servants is very difficult. It is difficult, but I think that some of the skills that I picked from there has helped me, one, in how I communicate, two, how I relate with the people. And sometimes when the people come to the workshop, they are like eager. We want to meet this person. We want to meet this person because we've spoken with her over the phone. She has been sending us so many messages, and so I think it's the skills that I picked from community radio are translating in the works that I do now.
All right, that sounds really good. I know you run a small business, which we'll mainly talk about, but your mom has been running a business since you were young. So how did you get involved in the business? Were you involved while you were in school? Growing up, we are told that if you're helping on the farm or doing anything, it's more of child labor.
Child labor.
Or if you're helping, we really haven't found our own definition for child labor as Ghanaians or as Africans. But your mom's business, how deeply were you involved growing up? Before you decided to run your own business, how deeply were you involved?
So I grew up seeing my mom weave the smocks, and it was like we didn't have a lot of weavers back then, so everybody was like, oh, Betty's mom weaves, Betty's mom's weave, her mom weaves. So it was like my mother was a weaver that a lot of people knew.
Right.
So anywhere I went, I would tell people that my mother weaves. So as far as I can remember, even when I was in the senior high school, I was selling smock fabrics. Wow. Because my teachers who wanted smock would contact me because they knew that my mother was weaving. And for me, it was always something I told people, oh, what work does your mom do? My mom weaves. When I wear this thing, and where did you get it? My mom weaves. So it became like, we know that your mom weaves. So if we want... And then phones were not common. So when you go home and you're coming, this is the smoke I want. I want this and that. So it became like, so I was taking it from my mother and supplying to those people. I became more like a middleman.
That's good.
Though then I didn't know that I could put some money on it for myself. So I just make sure that then they give me the money, I take it to my mother and then I bring it back. Then I go to the university and there were times I'll be going to school. My mom tells me she doesn't have money for me, but I can take some of the fabrics. If I'm able to sell it, then the money is for me. So I started selling whilst on campus. So my colleagues on campus also knew that my mom was weaving. But then it was just the normal fabrics. People buy and sew the styles they want, or the men's smock. These were the two major things that we were doing. So long story short, when I finished Winneba and then I graduated and I went back to KNUST, that was when I became more serious with the business. Because then I was funding for my own education. I applied for KAD scholarship. I didn't get, so I had to pay my own school fees, my hostel fees. That was when I became serious. I was like aggressively selling the fabrics then. And when I finished KNUST and moved to Accra, I had an internship with GIZ for 6 months. Then again, I was still selling, but not very aggressive like I was whilst I was in school. And after my internship, I was looking for a job. I wasn't getting a job, and I still had some amount of rent left in Accra. So I decided that I want to learn how to sew. I want to learn how to add value to the smock fabric so that when my rent in Accra expires, I can go back home with some skills that my mother will supply me the raw materials so that we can expand the business.
That's good. I mean, that you thought of having your own business right after first degree, even while you were doing your second degree, whilst in graduate school, you were doing stuff on your own, selling for your mom. I I can relate because for me, I'm also into food. My mom used to run a chop bar, and that's how I picked my cooking skills from. So when you talk about your mom being a weaver and everything that you've learned, I can actually relate. My challenge, however, is that I feel that most often when we are done with graduate school or we are even done with our first degree, we are too keen to look for a job, be in the white collar job space. And I'm not saying that no one should do that. And we have our parents, most people have their parents running businesses that took them to school, come back and don't do anything to add value to it. I know hundreds of shops, people whose mothers or fathers were running shops, they are done with their first degree, probably not even ending up to 5K yet, but their father's businesses are collapsed because they didn't add any value from the university they attended to improve these businesses. Beyond the fact that you needed money yourself, was it deliberate? Did you always think that you wanted to come back and help your mom improve this business? Did you see yourself being a part of the business? Was it because you were brought into it at an early stage so that we know whether, for me who is hard on starting my own business, what do I do? Do I get my kids involved at an early stage? Do they allow them to do whatever they want to do and then finally bring them on? How was the journey for you?
So for me, I think that, so let me add that during my first degree, my final project work that I submitted, I wrote on vocational apprenticeship among school children. The reason why I chose that topic was because when I did 3 months that I taught after senior high school, I realized that some of the children were also engaged in learning trades. Some people were shoemakers. After school, they go to make shoes, they go to sew smocks, they go to learn how to sew clothes and especially the boys. So I wanted to find out how this impacts their education, and I realized that it didn't really affect their education in most ways. And for some of the children, they didn't even realize that they were learning a business, like they didn't, because their parents are into it, so they are just helping their parents. So for me, I think that was how mine started. Like, that is what your mom does. Unconsciously, I learned how to weave.
Okay.
So I can do the whole process by myself. So I think that was how mine started. It's just because my mom was doing it. But as I grew, I realized that I could help her to make it better.
Good.
For instance, one of the things I introduced my mother to was how to use WhatsApp.
Okay.
Because I'm here and she's in WA, and it was a whole struggle teaching her how to use the WhatsApp. But now now she's comfortable. She's able to. The only challenge I have right now is that when she weaves, she's not able to send me clearer pictures that we can use to advertise our product. But she's picking up small. And when I pick up the goods, I'm able to take the pictures. So for me, I think that was an unconscious thing that later I realized. Now everybody's selling smokes. So how do you make yours different?
That's true.
So that you can still reach out to your customers and even reach new people as well.
Yeah.
So when I was much little, I think I was just doing it because my mom was doing it. But now
it's very conscious.
Yeah, it's a conscious effort I'm making.
All right. So looking at school and then your client, I mean, I buy a smoke from you. Now, we were talking about the last smoke I bought and how I get complimented every time I wear it. So I find that running the business, most of my customers are friends that I grew up with, friends from uni, friends from graduate school. In fact, even now that I still sell food, that I'm not really involved in a restaurant, if I have a program on campus and I go, they bring food, my colleagues buy. So I think that network that we build is a market on itself. I mean, that we can use to sell. How has your network from school, I mean, you mentioned a secondary school one, from undergrad and graduate school help expanded the business? You get referrals. How has that expanded, helping the business grow it?
So I can say that one of the reasons why I'm here talking with you today is because of the referrals that I get from my friends, especially. I don't hide the fact that my mom weaves anywhere I go, and I don't hide the fact that I sell smokes anywhere I go. So I think that about 70% of the people that buy from me are usually referred by family and friends, school networks that I built. So sometimes I just send a thank you message to my colleagues that thank you for supporting my business. For them, they think that supporting your business means buying from you, but they don't know how much it means when they share my post on social media,
Yeah.
when they comment, when they refer people. And I think getting to the end of last year, my business phone got spoiled. If not, I had a flyer that if you referred somebody to me and the person buys, I'll come back and send that flyer to you. Thank you for your referral. But I also think that since I started operating on social media, I've also had a couple of new
Okay.
customers reaching out to me through social media, especially through Instagram and TikTok.
Okay.
So far, Facebook, I don't get a lot of referrals from Facebook, yeah, but I still get people who tag me under people's posts on Facebook.
Okay.
But I think a lot of my new customers come from Instagram and TikTok.
That's great. It's like the way you are integrating social media technology into what you do. But one thing that hits me from your point, the point you just made, is that you don't hide the fact that your mom weaves and you are the daughter of a weaver. You can also weave, or you sell smoke. It looks like the reason, and I may be wrong, I mean, we can talk about this. The reason why some businesses haven't made it this far, we don't have our colleagues who have gained some knowledge that can help improve their parents' business, is because people feel shy about the business that took care of them. People feel that my mom sold K&K, my dad is a farmer, my dad is a mechanic, and we don't see how to add value to. Am I wrong? Is it something that you think is a case?
So I think that there are people who shy away from the businesses that their parents do. Even there are people who shy away from the businesses they themselves do. They don't want to be associated with a particular kind of business. Last 2 weeks, I went to Medina STC to pick up some of my products. My mom had sent them from work, and then I saw a guy selling Burkina. Burkina is one of the things I love so much, and I was like, oh, I was so impressed, because a young guy of his age selling Burkina, it doesn't happen. And he was telling, I was asking him, so how are they doing? Are they on social media? How do they do it? And their place was quite neat, looking at a place being run, a small business, food business being run by gentlemen. And I was so impressed. But we don't have to shy away from. One of the things that I always say I regret is that I didn't learn my dad's trade whilst he was still alive. My dad was a plumber. Do I know a few things I used to see him do, but I think that I should have taken advantage to learn more. Probably that would have fetched me more money than what I am doing right now.
I mean, probably will add up to, because now you have your day, your 8 to 5 job, you still have your side hustle that you do. And I'm sure when you get to a point where you feel that the smoke business is able to pay you what you want to pay yourself, you probably would want to focus more on that. I mean, at this point, we all do 8 to 5. If we get a side hustle, we add. The issue about, so for me, I jokingly say that my dad didn't start his own church. If he had started his own church, probably would be a preacher by now. So that ends it. But I see how learning from my dad, my mom has influenced most of the things I do now. Most of the businesses I venture into is largely because I've seen my dad, or the lessons I've learned from helping at home has influenced what I do. I know you're a mom. You have a daughter who my son is coming after. That we'll talk about in the future. I mean, as parents, as young parents, how do we carry our kids along the things that we do? I've been knowing that you did unconsciously. Is there something? I mean, my kids, when they close from school, I know they spend most of their time at the restaurant with their mom. I don't know what they are learning, but I mean, they play around there. What do you think can be done?
So for me personally, I have always said if I have a child, my child is going to learn soft skills. You will go to school, all right, but For now, I think she's still too young, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping that maybe when she turns 3, after 2 years, getting towards 3 years, I want her to learn how to do hair. I want her to learn how to do makeup. I want my daughter to learn how to sew clothes. I want my daughter to learn how to do these beads things. She should know how to do all of these so that she can, even if she's not making money from them, you don't have to go and pay money for some of these services. So what I think is that instead of enrolling my child in a vacation classes to go to school, I would rather enroll her in a beauty shop to learn how to do makeup. I'll enroll her in a shop where she can learn how to sew clothes so that as she grows, she picks up some of these skills. One of the things I have always said I want my child to learn is savings, because it was something that my parents never taught me. I had to learn it the hard way. And already, if you give her money, she's running to her piggy bank to try to put the money inside. So I think that now that you already know how to save, now we have to teach you how to make the money.
Yeah.
So I think that people sometimes say that my daughter is lucky to have me, but I think that I'm also lucky to have her.
Yeah.
And if she is really interested in some of the plans that I have for her, I don't think she'll grow up and be struggling for money like the way her parents are struggling.
I get that. Usually we are all happy hearing our kids say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a pilot. The boys at the early age, they want to be firefighters, they want to be police.
They will become astronauts.
all that really will pay, but having a soft skill really does a lot of difference. And for me, I also think that having a side hustle is always the best. You know that there's something that you can call yours when you close from your 8 to 5 job. There's something that you can hold on to. Now let's come to the business itself. You've been doing this for how many years now?
As far as I can remember, but I think
when you actually did the branding and all
when
that.
I started in 2020, getting to end of August, when my internship with GIZ ended. That was when I started with the brand. I was looking for a business name. I was looking for a logo, looking for all the hashtags and things that I could use to put the business out there. So I think after August 2020, that was when I became very serious, trying to take very nice pictures of the fabrics that I had. So when I started, I looked at other smock selling pages, especially on Instagram, and then I looked at how usually I want to see how other people are doing it, and then I add on what I also know. So I looked at the pages, I looked at the names that they were using. Most of the names that I already had in mind were being used by people. I was thinking of Smock World, and I saw that somebody was Smoky World or something. I thought of another thing, and I saw that somebody was using that. So I just said, you know what? This is a boutique where we are going to focus on selling smokes and everything smoke. So let's call it Smock Fabric Boutique.
Okay.
So when you walk into our boutique, you are just going, anything that can be made out of smoke, you find it there. So that was how I came by the name Smock Fabric Boutique. And then I said, okay, so when we say Smock Fabric Boutique, apart from that, what else can we use? Like a catchphrase or a hashtag. And I said, okay, let's say smoke the occasion, so that every occasion at all you can just wear a smock there. So we have Smock Fabric Boutique, and then the catchphrase is smoke the occasion.
Right.
So I think getting to the end of 2020, that was when I became very conscious, and then created a social media 2020 for Facebook and Instagram. And then I think about two years ago that I created the TikTok account, which hasn't been very active, but I think I'm still building it.
Usually when you do everything by yourself, you are your own manager, you do everything, it's usually that hard. You can't consistently post on social media.
It's hard.
Do you have people you're working with now, or you still do everything by yourself?
I do everything by myself.
Okay.
I make my social media post by myself. I take the pictures that I post by myself. I design my flyers. One of the things that I picked from GIZ during my internship was I learned how to use Canva.
Okay.
Because I had to design a newsletter letter or something.
Yeah, that was something they did every week.
Yes.
Someone had to do a summary of all the news.
So I learned how to use Canva, and it's one of the things that I'm using. So I'm relying so much on my business to use. So I make my flyers. Apart from the weaving that is done by my mother, and then I used to sew the dresses by myself, like the one I'm wearing now.
Okay, that's
but
good.
Now, because I'm busy with work, family, baby, I've got somebody who makes the dresses for me. And then I also have somebody who makes the bags, the slippers, the shoes, the other things. I have somebody. I've also ventured into making of earrings, and I was doing that by myself. I went to YouTube, looked at a couple of videos, got the materials, and I started, but I wasn't getting market for the earrings, so I just decided to hold on with that for now. Apart from that, most of the soft things around the business, I do them myself.
I hear you talk about collaborations, like working with people who are within the same space. They produce, you sell. Are these people you grew up with? Did you just meet them when you started? Or these are people you've known for a while?
Interestingly, I have not met some of them even before.
Wow.
For instance, the guy who makes the bags for me, I don't remember how we met, but I think somebody introduced him to me. He was also a student at KNUST, but we never met. And then we started talking. He bought some fabric, some smock from me. And then later he told me that, but before then there was this girl I was picking the bags from. I don't know who was making the bags for her, but I was taking them from her to sell. So when I picked from her, I put something on it and sell. Then the guy told me that he could make those bags. And I said, well, if you can make it, try for me. So I sent him some of the pieces of the fabrics, and he made some of the bags for me. And it was selling. So I saw. Unfortunately now, because of the increasing prices of items, it's a bit difficult to do the bag. So I've put a hold on that for now. But if people want, if you order, then I just let them make it for you. But I don't make in bulk again. So I never met that guy. But the lady who makes the dresses for me, I met her in Ebri when I went to work and stayed there. That was when I met her. She's still learning how to, she's not done with her training, but she's good. So she helps me now.
That's great. I mean, the fact that we work together, we grow together, the collaboration sometimes, that's what helps businesses grow. Once you have someone who is able to fill in within the value chain, it helps in growing the business. Have you tried employing anybody yet?
I haven't tried employing anyone. But if things go well, getting to the end of this year, I may probably open a shop in Wa. And if I do, a shop different from what my mom is operating. This one will be mainly to sew there. The challenge for me is that sometimes somebody wants a dress, and the dress they don't want any of the fabrics that I have available. Then my mom have to weave the fabric and send it from Wa. Then I have to go and pick it from Medina, come back and sew, take it back and go and send to the person. And sometimes the profit you make goes into the transportation. So I'm thinking that if we rather have a shop in Wa where we are closer to the source of the raw materials, it becomes even easier. So if things go as planning, if your credit union decide to give me a lot of money as loan to open a shop,
that's good. I mean,
we will employ people.
That's what credit unions are for. So I'm sure that the manager will sort you out once you're a member of the credit union. So I've been thinking your work as a project manager. What kind of projects are you running? Now you mentioned working with the people at the MMDAs, the assemblies, and the experience, how you've applied the experience from working with community radio and communities to that. What other projects are you working on? How are you able to juggle between an 8-to-5 job, kids, a kid and family, and then having a side hustle? How are you managing all friends are working and how you're managing all these?
It is difficult. I won't lie. It's very challenging. But I think that my work is very flexible. So since I moved to Accra, I work 4 days in the office and 1 day at home. So Fridays I work from home. But I don't try to waste my time. For instance, when I'm on my way traveling to work, I use the travel time to make my post on social media.
Okay.
I use the travel time to reply to people's messages. When I'm on break, when I'm having my lunch, I use that time to reply and text my customers and other things. Because I don't want somebody to be paying me to work for them and then I'm using their time to do other things.
That's true.
And then most of my customers say I always text them in the night.
Okay.
When the day is done and everybody's gone to bed and I have time to. Yeah. So if you check, if I'm not able to post on my Instagram during my travel time, then I post as night. Okay. I try as much as possible to post every day. My job is very demanding. We travel around a lot. So it hasn't been easy, especially when I have to travel out of town. Then you have a baby to take care of. You have a business. Sometimes I'm out of town and then people are calling me that they want this. And it's a 1 month business. I have the fabric, it's locked up in the house. There's nobody to pick it up and deliver to them. Yeah. So it is challenging. And recently I posted a video on my TikTok about how I pack my baby's lunch for school.
Saw that was too much food for the baby.
The comments
I'm joining the people who said it was too much food.
People were like, what time do you wake up? And but I think it all has to do with planning. I plan that this week, this is what I want to give to my baby to take to school. This is what we are eating. This is so those things I have control over. I try to plan them. And then the other things, like when customers are calling for clothes or other things, I cannot control those ones. So when they come, I try to. It's not easy.
I see. I mean, you mentioned time management a lot. That's where usually we kind of have problems. So you have an 8 to 5 job. The 8 to 5 job has to be sorted out because in most cases, the 8 to 5 job is what finances the side gigs that we do. So if you don't manage it well and you lose an 8 to 5 job, you are probably losing everything because you've invested all your earnings into a side hustle. So usually when someone asks me, how are you managing? I say that, I mean, I've given up on getting involved in running a restaurant because it's something I wouldn't have the time for. So I don't really do that. But your 8 to 5 job finances what you do as a side hustle. That is not there. Trust me, most of the capital you need to do what you're doing, that's not there. So I like that you are heavy on time management, also making sure that you are productive within the 8 to 5 job. It makes your employer happy. In fact, within the office itself, you are likely to have people buy from you once because they know that you have your bosses recommending people from you. I remember when I used to sell T-shirts, anytime I went for a workshop, I went with T-shirts. That is what, so your boss will recommend it because I'm mainly not into the production of T-shirts. All I do is to carry it and come and sell. So
I do your work.
And I do and I do your work. So you recommend someone for me. Usually I get people asking at what point do I start or stop my job to focus on my own business. And I say that, I mean, for me, the kind of money I want to be paid, I don't know when I'm going to, because until my job the side hustle is able to pay me what I earn now, it will be hard for me to say I want to quit what I do 8 to 5 and focus on a side hustle, which is why I wouldn't want to do anything that will require so much time that I may end up losing my side hustle. We are in the development space, travel a lot. Today I'm here, tomorrow I'm in Kumasi, I'm in Adan or out of town. So all these things happen. Have you thought of the point where you have to just focus on what you do, or you love the development work so much that you manage the smoke business on the side, you have a team, and then probably when you go on an early retirement, focus on the business? Are you trying to do something else in addition to, because you're opening a shop in Wa, and that's another conversation that we have. If you're not there to manage it, that's another story altogether. It comes with its own experience. What plans do you have?
So I am a very organized person.
Okay.
I like routine. I don't want to call myself perfect, but I like near perfection.
Okay.
So it's sometimes difficult for me to work with people because if I want the thing to be done this way, I want it to be done this way. And before I pick somebody to work with me, then it means that I really trust that the person can do as I'm telling him or her to do. So if right now my eyes are on someone and I'm thinking that she can manage the shop in Wa when it's opened.
Okay.
So if this person is able to manage the shop in Wa and it doesn't require a lot of my attention, maybe all I'll need to do is to make sure that I do the marketing well so that we can get a lot of customers and people asking for our services. Then I don't have to quit my job.
All right.
Initially, I was thinking of going full time, stop any other thing and going. But if I get somebody to manage it for me, then I don't have to quit my job.
Yeah.
Then it means that I can have time to focus on other things. I think I moved to Accra in January, and for the past couple of weeks, I've been using my weekends to also do food for people.
Oh, okay.
So I
That's good.
I do stew, soup, and things for some of my friends.
Okay.
So if I'm able to get somebody to manage the smoke business, then maybe I can also focus
on the
on
food
that one.
side.
I don't want to I don't want to commercialize it, but from the look of things, if
may have
things
to.
I may have to.
Yeah.
So that I spend. So sometimes if you come to my house on Friday evening, you think we're having a party in the house.
Now that I know, I'll drive there
because
from work.
we are cooking different meals and
Okay.
yeah.
That's great. That's great. I mean, I love the way you do your side hustle. I mean, that's what keeps us all going. The other point that I probably would want to find out is system building. I mean, once you are trying to build a shop where you are not available, and you being a planner and being someone who loves routine, you need to put in a bit of system. So technology, maybe an accounting software. Have you tried any of are you using any of these softwares, any system currently keeping record, managing your revenue, your expenses?
Yes, so last 2 years I started with some invoice. So I downloaded the app from the Play Store. Then I was using some Huawei to manage the business. And then
What happened? Your baby?
my baby has decided to put the phone inside water, so the phone doesn't work anymore.
Okay.
And I didn't plan to buy a phone then, so I haven't even bought one yet.
Okay.
So I decided to move the business WhatsApp to my own phone. Okay. So I have my personal WhatsApp and the business WhatsApp on the same phone. So, and unfortunately when I did that, I lost that invoice that I was using. That one, I was paying for it.
Okay.
But then, so I was trying to download it on the App Store, which I didn't get.
Okay.
And I had to depend on a different one. So I think there are even people who are owing me
on
that I lost, and I cannot even track that anymore.
Okay.
But so right now, that is the only way I'm using to keep my records. When somebody makes an order, I just input it into the invoice, give them their invoice, and then I track how much we are making in a month, how much we are spending on the goods, and I think that's the only one that I'm using for now. People try to introduce me to other ones. There was one Zoho also. When I downloaded it, it wasn't too friendly for me. Okay. So I tried to look for simple ones. Okay. Since my maths is very bad.
But nobody, I mean, people who don't like maths never get it wrong when they're counting money. So,
exactly.
Yeah, so don't worry about
so,
that.
That's the only one I'm using for now. Initially, I used to have a book that I was doing it manually.
Okay.
Then somebody introduced me to the invoicing, and I think that one is easier, so I don't have to do it manually anymore. All right. I just had to back up the account so that in case anything happens, I still don't lose my records.
All right, that's great. I asked that because one of the biggest challenges that our parents face running their own business is proper record keeping. They run businesses, they didn't know what their margins were, they didn't know what their expenses were, they didn't know what their revenues were. And we, the kids, then also had our own games to play within the business. It was something edible, then wahala for you. So that is what I'm asking, because I mean, you are doing this. Is it by any means that you are helping your mom along that line, or she's still running? She knows that when she buys the items, she keeps them here. Is she doing any sort of record keeping that you are supported or helped her with?
So for my mother, I think She has attended a couple of workshops where they teach them on bookkeeping and record keeping and all these things, but I think she's not making use of them. So what I do is that when somebody buys, let's say if you buy a fabric that is going for 300 cedis now, I'm not going to give all that money to my mother. I will probably give her 200 cedis, and then I'm saving 50 cedis somewhere for her. And then the other 50 cedis is also goes into a different account.
Bring that to the credit union. Bring those 50 cedis to the credit union.
Yeah. So now, at the end of, maybe let's say at the end of the year, part of the 50 cedis that I saved for her goes to her, because she has projects that she's also running that she needs money to do. So sometimes she thinks that the money that I'm giving her is coming from my pocket, but it's not entirely coming from my pocket. Though sometimes if it doesn't reach the amount, the target that I set for. So what I do is that at the beginning of every year, I try to do a financial plan. So this is the target that this is what I'm targeting, and then this is where my monies are coming from. So from all these sources, how much can I save that at the end of the year I can meet the targets that I'm giving to my mother? At the end of the year, the target that I have for my daughter, how am I doing all of that? So that's what I usually do. But if we get to the end of the year, maybe business was not so good, I'm not able to make that kind of money for her from the business, then I try to top it up. Then for her.
We didn't learn how to save at an early stage. Even though we were introduced to it at home, it wasn't something that I was keen at. So when I ran the savings project for secondary schools, I realized that there were students who could save 50 cedis a week. Some could do 20 cedis a week. And I was, wow. So while I was in secondary school, could I have saved some money? That brings me to the next question. Savings habit. How did you raise funds for your initial startup? When you decided to do it, did you save yourself? How did you build a habit over a period of? How did you build? I also heard you mention to the credit union manager that your mom was running a credit union account, running an account to credit, but you didn't know how it run. For you, how did you raise funds for your initial startup?
Interestingly, I didn't need to raise any money. Because my mom had the fabrics at home. Nobody's buying. All I needed to do was get her delivery money to sell. I don't even recall if I paid for the delivery. Or maybe I just went home one of the times and I brought the fabrics with me. And then I started selling them. The good thing for me, I always tell people who say they want to do business, is that I didn't have to start with any money, because my mother is the source of my raw material. And she's doing the business. She has the fabrics there. And sometimes they can weave the fabric, it stays there for so long that nobody is buying. So if I bring these ones here and I think I can get people to buy them, why not? So the only thing I did was to get the paper bags for packaging printed, which I think I spent about 100 cedis or 200 cedis at a time to get the paper bags branded. And one of my friends did a logo for me, so I didn't have to even pay him anything. He was my friend back from Winneba, so we knew each other. He just did it for me. But even later, I realized that I could do it on Canva, just that I didn't explore. So he did the logo for me. I didn't have to worry about. I didn't have spent so much money. So my mom has the fabrics. I took them, add something on it, sell, and then give her money, and then.
That's interesting. So largely, I guess what you are saying is that, as people who are looking at opportunities to start something on your own, not everything really requires money.
Yes.
And it's also trust. I think it also plays a key role. So this is your mom, but it's largely because there's that element of trust there, that when the fabric is given to you, whatever money is made, whatever money is to be paid back, you're going to pay it back. So that's one thing that we should look at. So maybe I would say that if you are looking at starting something of a side hustle, you don't really need to look too
far away. No.
Look within your circles. Who has a product that all you need to do is add a little value or provide a market for, and that becomes a business that you can do.
That even reminds me, when I was in KNUST, I was selling almost everything and anything. because I have colleagues in my class who are selling shirts.
Okay.
I just take them and post on my status. If he's selling it for 50 cedis, when you ask me, I tell you 70 cedis. And then I tell him that, oh, I've told somebody 70 cedis. So when the person sends the money to you, my 20 cedis is on it. So I've sold body splash, I've sold hair brushes, I've sold piggy banks, like just anything that I can come across.
Right.
Sometimes you don't have to look too far. And there were even times that I don't see the product myself. I don't touch it.
Yeah.
It just goes from the seller to the buyer.
To the buyer.
And then I get my money from
So
it.
in this day and age, I believe that there's a lot that people could actually invest into if they want to start a side hustle, like really low. Your phone is enough to get you started. Having internet is good enough to get you started. But I think in amongst everything is that element of trust has to be there. When I take the items and I say when I'm done selling, I bring the money, it has to be sent because that is what sometimes will break the trust, and then you will not have a good business if that's what you're depending on.
And I also think that for people that do business, the passion.
Okay.
Because it's not every day you're going to make profit. When it comes to the point that the profit is not coming, the business is not moving, it is the passion that drives the business.
Right.
So if the passion is not there and you just want to focus on
the profit,
you start 1,000 businesses and they will all never work.
That's true. That's true. I remember when we started the restaurant. I mean, when the restaurant started, the paying salaries was even the first day we sold like I think we were a little over 2K. The next day we sold just one plate. Mm-hmm. The following day was like 2. It took us a week to actually start selling about 5 plates. But you know what happens? At the end of the month, you still have to pay people.
Yeah.
So the passion, the resources that you need to do it, and you don't need to employ people right at the beginning if you don't have the means. Yeah. So you make sure that you do that yourself. I also believe that if you have an 8 to 5 job, it also opens other doors because your clientele, your office, the people you work with all become part of the people that you can sell to depending on the products that you have. So for me, 8 to 5 is key because you learn a lot of lessons from an 8 to 5 job working for someone. You build your own experience. You know what to expect if you're employing somebody else. So that for me, I think plays a key role. And having listened to you and knowing you and everything that you do, you were deliberate. I mean, you learned what your mom does. So I also come from a region where we weave. My hometown, we believe that we are the originators of Kente. So that's where I come from.
This conversation,
yeah. I come from a hometown where from Agoti Mekpetwe, we are weavers. But I don't know how to weave. So even if I need to do any sort of business along the line of Kente, I usually will call my dad anytime anybody wants to buy Kente. But I'm looking at how we can promote the sector itself, the Kente sector, whether it's from Wa, whether it's from Kumas, whether it's from Petwe, wherever it's coming from. Are we doing enough to promote that? Because right now, every graduation you see a sash Kente that people are using. Is Ghana the only one producing it? Are we leaving it to the Chinese? What are we doing to actually promote that sector?
One of the things that my mom has been worried about for some time now is the fact that there are now a lot of weavers everywhere. Everybody's weaving.
Wow.
And even sometimes very young children. So I think that in the association, one of the things they try to do is that if you don't take an apprentice within some age, or even if you are taking that person, the person should be in school so that they can come after school and come and continue. So I think that, but for me, it's not about the number of weavers we have there. How many of them are able to weave the quality fabrics that we want? There are some people there now who cannot do the normal fabric. We call that one normal. It's about 16 or 17 inches. They can only do the one that they used to sew men's smock. That one is about 6 inches.
Okay.
So my mom keeps saying that, so she and her generation, when they are no longer in the business, who do we get to do the 16 inches, 17 inches fabric? And because the 6 inches is easier to do.
It's easy to do.
So people are just teaching their apprentices how to do that one. They are not interested in the other one. So for me, I think that we shouldn't just sit down and say that we have done enough and people are wearing it everywhere. When people want to marry, that's what they wear. When people are graduating, that's what they wear. When people at very important events, that's what people are wearing. But I think that if we get any opportunity to always market this, let's do that. And one difficult thing about this kente or smoke business is that you see, people can just gather people that, oh, we are doing 2 weeks intensive training, hairdressing or sewing, and people are able to go and learn. You can't learn the smoke one within that short while.
Okay.
The mathematics that my mother does, I cannot even do it. So if you see her pattern book or whatever they call it, the kind of long division that she does, especially when a new fabric comes, to be able to ensure that they do the accurate, that they work accurately. I cannot do that mathematics.
Okay.
So if we need to still make a lot of noise about it so that more people, especially people who are interested, can learn. Sometimes you get people saying, oh, there's this NGO, they want to support girls or people to learn how to do these things, and then when you tell them that you can't learn this within 2 weeks or 3 months or whatever, it's a long process, then they are not interested because they want something that they can do within the short period.
Within 6
So I think that people that want to support people to do small businesses should be able to extend the time. If this is what somebody wants to do, you should be able to help them within that time frame. And then the cost of the materials, the materials they use for them is so expensive. And I'm also thinking that we should be able to produce some of the threads ourselves in Ghana, because I don't know, most of the time the thread that they used to weave are imported, I think, from China.
Wow.
Yeah. So if we're able to do the thread ourselves, I think it's only the Gonja area that they usually do the thread by themselves.
Okay.
And even with that one, when they do it, you cannot wash the fabric often because of
It's
the
not
paint.
strong,
Yeah,
though.
it will
Okay.
just fade. So I think there's still a lot to be done. And I always ask myself that, so one day, if my mom is no more, who will be the next
Who- yes.
supplier of the raw materials?
Yeah.
Who will supply me?
That's a big question.
We need to look at it maybe from that angle. But I think some people in what now they do a worry festival, like weaving festival.
Okay.
But is that enough? I think there's still a lot that we can do.
All right. I mean, we celebrate a Kente festival every year, so I guess where you're coming from. But as Ghana, so Kente smoke is something that really represents us as Ghanaians. I mean, everywhere you go, I mean, if I go for international events and you see anybody in a smoke, you know this person is Ghanaian.
Yeah.
The person is in Kente, you know this person is Ghanaian. So these are things that really identify us as Ghanaians, as West Africans, wherever we find ourselves. So I'm looking at how, as a nation, we can actually promote that to actually sell the brand Ghana wherever we find ourselves. Is there anything else that is coming up for you project-wise? I know you're looking at having your shop open in Wa. You're also looking at the possibility of commercializing a stew business. Is there anything else that you are yearning for? You want to go back to school? I know you have a master's in development planning and management. You want to go back to school anytime soon?
So, this is a good question. For the past couple of months, I've been reaching out to potential supervisors. I really want to go back to school. I was sharing my story with some ladies at a GIZ event last week. I told them that when I was growing up, all that I knew was that, okay, so when you finish school, you go to, after senior high school, you go to a teacher training college or a nursing training college. Then I'll become a nurse, I'll marry, my husband will buy a motorbike for me, and I'll be a champion in what. Then I also have children and the cycle continues. But unfortunately, I found myself in Winneba, or fortunately, and then I saw that women were even more than just nurses and teachers. Women were teaching at the universities. Women were working at some of the administration. Women were doing and when I saw that, I told myself that I am not going back until I do a master's. I didn't even know that after a first degree you could go to school again. So when I knew that, I said no, I'm not going back. I also have to do a master's. My father and my mother did not even do a first degree. I think they went to vocational schools. My dad went to do his plumbing and electrical and other things. My mom also went to learn how to weave. And so I think when I found out that no, you can be something more than what your parents are, I decided I wasn't going back. And since I've been able to get the masters, I think I should go if the opportunity comes. So I'm still searching, but I think that if there are opportunities for people to go to school and have your fees being paid, I don't have to raise money to pay my fees. So I'm looking for somebody who will pay my school fees for me. And then and because of the kind of field I find myself now, I'm more of environmental sustainability, climate change, waste management, sustainable waste management. I don't mind doing another master's if I have to be able to get a PhD to do so. Maybe it will take long, but me too, you will call me the doctor's son.
I mean, even me, I still have a year. I'll say a year to go.
Oh, I'm waiting when my husband is done with his PhD. Then I'll collect the title.
You sure will get yours. I mean, once your husband is having, it means that all of you are benefiting from the learning that is coming. So that he is doing. So
yes, I have plans of going back to school. I don't mind doing another master's. So tell your people if they are interested to sponsor somebody who wants to do I'm more on I want to look at the gender dimensions in waste management, how climate change and all those things. So I've been searching. It's not easy.
That's good. Are you looking at doing that here in Ghana, or you want to go out?
If I get out,
you run and go and come.
Yes.
You won't jackpot.
Yeah, I want to jackpot.
If you jackpot, you come back.
Yes, I'll come back.
All right. I mean, because with all the things that you are doing, if you leave, usually you won't find anybody really sustaining them. I mean, I've had my first degree, second degree, now pursuing a PhD right here in Ghana. Sometimes when I speak to my friends who are schooling outside, I want to see what the experience would be out there. You may think that the context might be different, but I mean, I probably would want to do maybe a 1-year course or a 2-year course out there, see how things emerge. But I'm keen on building Ghana. I'm keen on building something right here in Ghana. But I believe that the sort of returns you get on investment, and even if you're outside to invest in Ghana or in Africa, it's a bit higher if you're investing somewhere else. The only difference is that there are systems out there that makes it easier for you to grow your business. But if you bring your money down here and invest and you're able to actually keep an eye on it, it's one thing that is good. I haven't heard you talk about farming or agric or anything. Is it that because your parents didn't do farming or they didn't commercialize farming?
Okay, they did farming, but they didn't commercialize.
Okay.
Interestingly, when I was in Ebri, I was growing tomatoes inside containers outside my house. But now we even have a small backyard, and I cannot do any form of farming. My husband tells me, he tried it, but because it's open and we have to fence the place before. So it's just because it was something I wanted to do. The small backyard, and when people do it, I get fascinated. Yes, I admire, and I really want to do some. But when I asked, and then I was told that because we need to fence the place before, and so it's not something that I've even thought about again. But I really love farming, especially when I see people grow tomatoes inside the containers. It kills me.
So I was asking about farming on a large scale where you think that is also an area that you may want to venture into. I think it's one of the low-hanging fruits if you want to invest. But the only question
I'm
there
not
is
really
that
sure.
You don't think you want to do a break. All right.
I have trust issues. So anything that
you don't have control over,
that I don't have full control, I have to leave it for somebody to manage. It's difficult. Unless I'm sure that I can really trust you to do this.
Mentioning trust, we were having a conversation. I was having a conversation with my trainer this morning about how there are people out there who have money to invest, and then they don't know who to give the money, or the people who need the money to do the work cannot be trusted well enough to receive the money to invest. So they have the money, instead of putting the money in the physical economy, they might end up putting it in the banks, because you know that if the bank is going to give me 1% or 3% every quarter, that money will come. The returns on investment in the physical economy might be high, but the trust that
People
if
will,
I give you that money, it will come back. It's really, really low, which is why we all have ideas in our heads, but finding capital is a big problem. So
I even think that apart from trust, people have to learn to communicate. Because if I'm doing business with you, you tell me to come today and come and pick up my items, and you think that today is not possible, just communicate to me. But you don't let me waste my time and come to you and then it's not
the
ready.
items are not
Then you
ready.
start doing me go and come, go and come. That's one of the issues that I usually have with people. Most people, you are doing a business, you should learn to communicate. Even if it is bad news, you still have to
Not
communicate.
communicated.
The more you wait, the
You
news
get,
it gets
yeah,
worse.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
So sometimes I ask somebody to do something for me, and then it's a whole. Last month I was doing smoke challenge like every day. Anytime I'm stepping out, I want to wear smoke. So I was
Okay.
posting it on my TikTok, and then somebody made some shoes for me, smoke shoes. When I wore it, people were interested. Up to date, I asked the guy that, so you made this for me about 3 years ago. Right now, if you want to make it, how much are you going to charge? I've not had feedback yet.
Wow.
So it's like, you're the only one I know. Where do I start looking for another person who can do this for me?
I mean, now we mentioned, I'll give you a contact for on your way. It's on your stretch back home. There's a guy who does shoe who will be on the show somewhere next week.
It's even easier
So I'll
that the
connect
person
you.
is close
Yeah.
to me.
The business you do, when you look at the value chain, where do you think other people can fit into? Anybody who is looking at low key investment, not so much capital, some 3K, 4K, 5K kind of investment. Where do you think people can easily invest into and also start something on their own?
One of the areas that people can invest in is the trade.
Okay.
I don't know how it is done. I've tried to understand. It was something I wanted to venture into, but the people are so stingy with the information, those who sell the trade.
All right.
And you try to find, so where are you? I even wanted to find a place in Accra. I wanted them to show me the place in Accra. Then I can always buy from here and send them to my mom. I'm not going to buy and go and sell. I don't want to spoil your business. I'm just supplying my mom at a cheaper cost. I haven't been able to identify the place up to now. And so I think that if people are able to venture into the trade making especially, and then, or maybe selling of the trade, it is very expensive. The trade is quite expensive,
Okay.
which is why most people will sell their fabrics at very outrageous prices. And then also, I think other areas like making products out of the smoke fabric. So I was even thinking of using the fabrics for summer hats, and I know other people use them for earrings and other things. So being somebody in environmental sustainability space, I want to make sure that we are not just throwing away the pieces when we are done.
Okay.
We should be able to use them for other things so that the waste that we are taking into the environment is reduced. Yeah. So people can venture into those areas, selling of the thread, adding value to the fabrics to sell and other things. Yeah.
So, I mean, wrapping up, what would you say has been your biggest gain in going into this business? I mean, what for you has been the biggest gain?
So I get excited when I get international deals. There was this guy in Germany who was using the fabric to produce other things, and he was one of the biggest customers that I had. I think the last time he bought from me was somewhere last year. This year I've not heard from him yet, but it has been one of my biggest gain. Yeah. So he doesn't buy in small quantities. He buys in large quantities, and then sometimes he doesn't even pay me in CD. He gives me euros when he comes to Ghana to pick up. Yeah. So I think that it's been good. Though sometimes the sales are low, but when you get some of these deals, it helps to boost.
Yeah, I mean, you know that you're doing something.
Yes.
Really, that's good. So you have the smoke business running, you have the stews and soups and food
That one
side
is
gig
unofficial.
unofficial coming. Yeah, I mean, what is your last word to anybody out there who is looking for a side gig to do as part of, because in Ghana, I mean, in fact, all over the world, I don't think one salary is ever enough for anybody. But in our case in Ghana, and if you're in Accra, it's even more difficult to rely on just one source of income. What do you have there? Are there enough people out there for all of us to serve? Is there enough that everybody else can do?
I think the sky is big enough for all of us to fly.
Okay.
So don't even use that as an excuse that everybody is selling this one. Starting might be difficult, but a lot of people will say, oh, I'm saving money to start a business. I'm saving. You will never have enough money to start. So just start with what you have. You don't have to start big. You have to start small and build on it. Sometimes you can just put a lot of investment into the business and then you realize that it won't run the way you expected it to. So if you want to start a business, just start. That's all that I would say. And then be nice to people because it is people that are going to buy from you.
All right.
These are my last words.
All right. Thank you very much, Sugar. I mean, I've always called you Sugar. Yeah. So if anybody wants to find you, what handles can they find you on?
So on social media, Smoke Fabric Boutique, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I think I even have a Twitter, an X account, which doesn't function much.
Okay.
But Smoke Fabric Boutique on all social media platforms.
Right.
But for me personally, I use Sugar Piembaya
Okay.
on all my social media.
All right. Thank you very much once again for tuning in. If you are not, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do so. You subscribing to the channel will enable us to bring in more people and have great interviews and share more ideas with you. Thank you once again. I'm your host, Kwame Mati.